Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm Debra Eckerling, creator of the DEB Method for Goal Setting Simplified. I'm also the author of Your Goal Guide and 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. And my new book, 52 Secrets, is coming soon. And because of that, through the months of January and February, I've invited people who I interviewed for the book to be on GoalChat. So 52 Secrets is all about helping you. It's like a choose your own adventure of ideas and secrets that have worked for others in various industries. And I'm so excited because today I've got some awesome people, and actually, I don't think any of you are in the teamwork chapter, which is great because when I was compiling,
are we going to find out why?
I was going to say we might.
For the book, I interviewed 60 achievers in the areas of business, tech, entertainment, food, and other areas, consultants, leaders, achievers. And what was great, and I asked them all this simple question: what is your secret for goal setting or goal getting? And then I had the fun puzzle of putting them into the different categories, which were focus, well-being, action. I'm going to do them all: networking, communication, productivity, and leadership and teamwork. And what I think was so great is a lot of these can be put in multiple categories. So I just did my best guess. But you all are obviously amazing people, and I'm so blessed to have you in the book. We've got Jeff Bajorek, who came through the amazing Bryn Tillman, Gahidi Chin, who's one of my newest yet closest foodie friends, and Jess Dewell. And I love to say we met because one of our mutual friends was a frequent visitor when I had my GoalChat Twitter chat. And that's just, you can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people, which the book is a testament of, which is, so are these conversations. And you may be watching us as GoalChat Live, you may be watching the replay, or you might be listening to us as GoalChat on the Marketing Podcast Network. But no matter how you found us, we are glad you're here. And really, it's the end. We're recording this toward middle to endish of January. And goals for me, I only talk about them at the beginning of the year because everybody else does, and it would be silly if I didn't. But for me, goals is a year-round thing. And every time you're embracing change by choice or by circumstance, it is a time to look toward your goals. And again, you can't reach your goals on your own. You need your people. So let's meet some of my people. Jeff, will you please share who you are and why you are here? Other than you're awesome.
Oh, well, thank you. My name's Jeff Bajorek, and I help salespeople perform better. And I'm here because you asked me to be, Deb. That's I'll
take it.
You reached out to me several months ago now. Gosh, it was last summer, I believe. And you said, Bryn Tillman suggested that we should be connected. And so I'm wondering if you could spend a little bit of time with me. And I granted that because I have such respect for Bryn. I'll take her recommendation blind, and you have absolutely over-delivered on that recommendation too. I'll take a conversation with you anytime. And so you sent me a message last week and said, "Hey, got this thing on Monday, and
want to come play?
Would you like to come hang out?" And I'm like, "Well, we will have just wrapped up dinner here on the East Coast, and so yeah, I'm in." And so here I am to hang out and learn some things from all of you. So I'm excited.
And isn't it great to have these people in our lives where it's just an easy yes when they tell you to meet somebody?
It's a gift more so than I think I realized. I mean, I'm in sales. I've been, publicly saying things, writing things, producing things, putting content out. And so I run into a lot of people. And so it becomes easy to take for granted that there are good people out there. But what you realize is, you get introduced to people, or people introduce themselves. And, I've run into some people who have been podcast guests, or that you run into each other at events, and you're like, oh, yeah, you're not my people. I'm sure you're nice, but you're not my people. So when you come across people or you interact with people, and Bryn and I have worked on some things together, when you really do get to know somebody, and then when they introduce you to other people who are just high quality individuals, it's just it's a gift, and so that's definitely something I've learned over the past couple of years.
Well, I am absolutely thrilled you connected us, because as I was doing these interviews, I said, who else do you know who needs to be in the book? And the qualification, well, I keep saying the two qualifications, but it's pretty much the same thing, is they need to be friends, somebody I'd be friends with, and of the giving spirit. And the people I'm friends with are of the giving spirit, so it does kind of feel redundant. But again, it was, and Bryn gave me a bunch, but I believe you are the first Jeff out of her mouth. So there you go.
Awesome. I'll hold it down for the J's. Yes.
So Katie, great to see you. Please share who you are. And we met because you were on my food podcast, Taste Buds with Deb. And but even before we met, you just kept coming up in conversations. So I kind of love when that happens too.
Oh, well, I like to say any friend of Deb's, and just mirror what has been said. I mean, you attract like, and you bring good people together. So we all automatically say yes because we adore you and we want to support you. But also, also feel that anybody else you have on a show or you introduce me to, well, I also consider to be an automatic friend. So I'm a chef. I'm a cookbook author. I've written 5 cookbooks. I have a catering business called Walkstar Catering. I also wrote a one-woman show called Holy Shiitake, A Walkstar is Born. So I'm excited to be here just to do a check-in with people, because it's been definitely a trying time. So how do we, continue to set goals when we feel like we're in the face of tragedy, but at the same time, life goes on, and we all need each other. That's the other point I want to make. We need to still network. We need to reach out to our friends, but and it's okay to ask for help.
And I should mention, so Katie and I are both in the LA area. I think different parts of the LA area, we were impacted by different fires, which, that's a sentence you never, ever, ever want to say. But fortunately, we're of the lucky ones. I mean, I didn't have to go anywhere, but I was close enough to stay on alert. And it is a bit of a challenge, but LA is so resilient. And I don't want to say excited to rebuild, but determined. Maybe that's the better way to put it. And that's, again, with the teamwork, giving spirit, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, always fun to have food represent in any conversation, because it ends up in the conversation anyway. Jess Dewell,
Yeah.
always good to see you as well. Please share who
great.
you are and why you are here.
Well, I'm Jess, and I talk about strategic growth. And I care that it's somebody who took the time to start a business and bring a group of people together to make a difference in this world, have the opportunity to do that regardless of the challenges that they face. And I'm going to say, well, why am I here? Because I apparently know something since you asked me to come today. Whether this is a topic that I would normally talk about or not is a whole other thing. And I really enjoy the collaboration of conversations like this. So when a conversation comes up that's around a topic that I'm like, ooh, I could learn from the other guests and maybe contribute something of value to, I'm in.
Excellent. And as I said before, when I was putting together the book, it really was like the best jigsaw puzzle, because so many things can be put in different categories. Jeff is in the focus chapter. I believe you are tip number 3 or secret number 3 in 52 Secrets. Katie is in action, and Jess is also in focus, come to think of it. So, but all of these elements, whether it is focus or action or productivity, it's all about the team because you can't reach, we don't live in a vacuum. I mean, the entire book is a team effort. It was just putting together these awesome people to create this menu where people who are struggling and or stuck can say, ooh, what advice do I need? And they could pick a tip or a chapter and get that inspiration, but also the action. But what is a team? What is teamwork? I feel like we should start with that as the most basic question, even though I feel like we kind of know. Jeff, how do you define teamwork?
I was afraid you were going to ask me first. How do I define teamwork? I think it's collaboration for a common goal. The four of us are on this call, and we're streaming out to people who want to learn more about this. But until, and I don't know, I was the last one to join the call, but I don't know if other than like Katie and Jess, did you know each other prior? Okay, so all four of us are here. We all know Deb, but we're all here trying to serve a common purpose, which is the people who are watching this, listening to this now, or will in the future. And we have a goal to be of service. So we all have a role to play, and we're all in the fun, circumstance of having not met each other before. We kind of have to feel each other out in real time to serve that goal. But maybe this isn't the best analogy in the world, but the idea is that people working together to serve a common purpose and recognizing that they all play separate roles. Mm-hmm. And there are things that only, there are certain positions on a team, certain roles on a team that have to be filled by certain people. And hopefully you've got the people with the right characteristics and the right talents and strengths in the right roles, so that they can get the most of themselves and give the most of themselves in those roles. But I think it's the idea of teamwork being, we're everybody has their own smaller jobs or roles to fill, but this group or this collective of smaller roles creates something that's bigger than the sum of its parts.
I completely agree and endorse this definition, especially since, well, and I say this frequently, I am on a mission to change goal culture in and out of the workplace, because a lot of people think of goal as the bad kind of four-letter word, where it is like the best kind of four-letter word. And one of the workshops I do, I call it keeping your employees engaged and productive. Yes, I love a good acronym. But the whole point is, even if, whether it's a book where a bunch of people are interviewed and sharing their thoughts, or it's a project within a company, or it's a small company, everybody's got their role, but you need to work in concert for the big picture so everybody wins. And I feel like, Katie, because you're nodding, teamwork is, well, obviously in food, but in everything. I mean, you are one of the most awesome multi-hyphenates. I mean, how many caterers are also playwrights and stars of their own women's show, right? Own one women's show. So what is your definition of teamwork?
It's similar. It's really about the common good. And I think, in certain types of cultures and organizations, it might not be as evident, because you may feel like, what is my role? What does that have to do with this person over here? And I think, because I used to work in the film business, I did TV and film marketing for many years. And, a lot of the roles for certain people on certain teams, they may feel that they're not as significant than another person that's more senior or more executive, or you're actually making a film, versus like, okay, I'm sitting here in the photo department and I'm going over each, still for this, PR campaign. I think the important thing as a leader is that you have to make each person on your team feel as important than the next person. And that you have to remind them of the common goal, and that every person is contributing in their own way, like an orchestra. And that if you're in charge as the leader, you're ultimately trying to play this beautiful piece, but everybody's interdependent on the next person. And I think that's, to be a true leader, you have to infuse that all the time, because people get, especially in the film business or the entertainment business, there's such a hierarchy that you feel definitely made to feel like you're not as important. But for me to transition from that to running a catering business, I definitely see the fluidity of it all, and how everybody can really, okay, we're really playing an orchestra right here. We're playing this beautiful song because we're feeding 500 people all at once. So I love to see sort of like the ballet happening and to see how people really need to come together and trust each other. Teamwork also has a lot to do with trust. But in the end, like Jeff's saying, it's just how can we get to this common goal together, hopefully without any fistfights.
And you're in a band as well.
Yes, see, although I can't play any instruments, but maybe that's why I'm using the music analogies as well, because my husband and I formed a band during COVID called Never Too Late. So we are now in a band, and there's like 7 of us. And that's also just been so apparent and evident. Like, we really do need each other here, and we're backing each other up and kind of like flying blind, because most of us have never been in a band together before. So we've had like a kind of our coach who's our bassist, who runs a music school. And right now he's kind of like, I'm taking the training wheels off. And we have it's kind of a dad bassist who's joined, but it is like so freaking terrifying because he's not there. But little by little, we're figuring it out. And we actually have our first actual gig, besides playing at my book launch parties, in 2 weeks. So, but that's been just a very cool thing to be a part of, because it's just like, 6 of us doing it and glaring at each other when somebody screws up. But we get better each time. So nevertoolate.com. Check it out.
Okay, then. and I love, and we'll dive into this more in a minute after we make Jess answer the same question, is individuals, as you all are entrepreneurs, even though you've got teams within your businesses, it is you who's running the show with people in you've got to manage all the moving parts. But like foreshadowing, we will get to that. Jess, what is your definition of teamwork?
You might have even foreshadowed my answer. I don't even know at this point, Deb, because here's where I was going. I'm like, whatever we're coming together to do, whether it's this show, whether it's a group of people with a common interest, whether it's a place of employment and making a difference in the world and providing solutions, we have constraints. We are working creatively together with these constraints. And the only way we can know how to best use these constraints to find the right solutions right now is with a common message, a common theme. And to your point, Deb, there is usually somebody in the group that holds that vision. And while we can all ascribe to that vision, I think about wagons. We're all adding our wagons to the vision, and we're bringing ourselves, our personal goals, to something that's bigger than us. But somebody has to hold that vision. And I have seen failure happen when letting go of that vision and encouraging each individual to come up, because all of those individual wagons are now, they have competing priorities. And so being able to ascribe, this is why I'm here. Here's how I can help. This is what my role can be. I am actually participating in getting to this goal with these people. Having that set out for us that we can all step up to every single time we're working together or working on our own work for that common goal, we have the ability to make a difference and to do as much as we can, but to make sure, remember, well, who's the vision holder? Who's the helper? Who's the one who can stir the pot? Who's the one that always seems to know somebody? Who's the one that can help find the right question to ask next? That list goes on.
And the roles there, it's like a cast of The Biggest Play Ever, because there are always room for more participants, more backup singers, or
as long as your constraints allow it. Or get creative to make it so.
Well, but and that's not to go back, too far, but Katie, you're writing cookbooks and you're a caterer. The definition, the opposite of teamwork is too many cooks in the kitchen, right?
Ah,
And
Right.
so when we
Yes.
talk about constraints, the more the constraints, the more fluid that
Yes.
teamwork and that collaboration needs to be. You're not going to put, if a kitchen is designed to have 3 people max, I'll tell you what, if you have 4 pros, they can probably still make it work. But if you put 3 newbies in there, it's probably not. And so the constraints are real, and the constraints are also, I think, fluid, dependent on the people you have working, their talent levels, and also their familiarity with one another. I was talking to a colleague of mine earlier today, and I remember, when I was first learning to sell, I spent a lot of time with my manager, and it wasn't very long, probably faster than it should have been, before we could really finish each other's sentences in a sales call. But until we could do that, it was probably best that we didn't try, And so there's something about, the constraints. And Jess, I love that you brought that up, because the constraints change based on the dynamics of the team and the people on it, as well as just the global constraints of, what are we trying to do here, and things like that. It's a moving target. And that's, I think, something that a lot of people don't recognize. Just because this team did it with 4 people doesn't mean that we can do it with 4 people.
That's right.
and not only that, the constraints can make the team stronger, especially if they are constraints that you didn't predict may happen. It can test the relationships within a team and if they can rise to the occasion.
So, Jeff, you inadvertently answered the original next question. So we'll go with that
Sorry.
before dialing it back, which is what makes someone a good team player. And I think experience is a big part of that, because when you know what you're doing, I think you've got the confidence that you're not gonna, things are gonna work. You know that these will work, and you're able to adapt because you've been there before.
It's almost a version of the serenity prayer, right? It's like knowing what you can impact, knowing what you can't impact, and knowing when to tell the difference. That's what wisdom is, right? It's like I saw a clip recently. It's what's the difference between intelligence and wisdom? Intelligence is knowing that tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. Like you. I'm not going to make food jokes all night, I promise.
But that was a good one.
I love it.
But you're right. It's. I don't think it's just experience, because I know people who have been on teams over and over and over again and continue to make the same mistakes. But it's the wisdom, it's the it's the wherewithal of having been on teams to recognize this needs to be done, and I can do it. Versus this needs to be done. I can do it, but it's not my job. Versus this needs to be done. I can do it, but it's not my job. And I really should be investing my time and attention over here, because this is where I am best placed. And so sometimes being on a team, it's really easy to get wrapped up, and there's codependency that forms, because when you have players on a team who can do a lot of different things, and most good team players can, because it's important to recognize what needs to be done. But to know and to have the restraint of, I could, but I really shouldn't, because my time, energy, effort, expertise, whatever you want to fill in the blank with here, is better for the benefit of the team, better spent over here in the opposite direction. Shouldn't even be paying attention to that anymore, because that's not helping, right? So it's more than just experience. It's even more than expertise. I think I'll call it wisdom. It's the wherewithal of knowing where you are best suited to make the best impact.
Oh, that's good. I
Thanks.
love that.
Thanks for the call.
And Jess, did you want to add on to that, or give your own take on what makes a good team player?
Okay, so I'm trying to think of something different, because Jeff and I think a lot alike. And this is really good. So what I would add to take it to go either more laterally or a little deeper would be something about we have to know ourselves, to what Jeff was saying. But then I'll take it one step further, and I'll say, maybe we also need to know when to shut up, close the hole, and use the ears, right? Close the one hole, open up the two. And I think that's so important, because the more we listen, the better the cues we can have. Because one of the things that I know, that just because we can doesn't mean it makes sense to, or it's the right time. And most importantly, it might actually take us off of our end goal. So we might be moving the needle, but not making progress, or we're making progress without making the impact we could. So being able to flex within all of the work that's being done to keep, I had a mentor once say, to keep all the butterflies moving in the same direction. And she was using it in terms of your anxiety. Like the first time I got up on stage and I saw myself 10 feet tall on a screen before I walked up there, that's what she said to me. But this also works in teamwork. We all move in the same direction, because then we'll all get to the same place.
We want to row the boat in the same direction.
Oh, I like the butterflies better, but I'll go with your boat.
I like the butterflies better too, but I think the boat analogy is the one that everybody recognized, because you do need to be rowing in the same direction. It's like what I was saying before, when I do these workshops for teams within companies, you need to know your goals, what gets you excited about the project, and make sure it's in alignment with what everybody else is doing, because then everybody's engaged and happy.
And as long as you've got enough dissonance in there, so you're not using just one and going in a circle, right? You got to use two to go forward.
Yes.
So we'll stick with your boat. I'll meet you there, 2 oars, or many on both sides.
Yeah, I don't think butterflies can row.
No.
The oars would be a little too heavy.
Possibly.
Yeah. Let's move on from this really failed amalgam of an analogy. Katie, what makes a good team player?
I agree that certain people try to do everything. Like, I'll go over here and help this person. I'll do this over here. I want to do that. So, it's really, incumbent also on the leader to really define roles. But I think the opposite of that can be. And because I'm just like so in the middle of catering right now, that's what I'm thinking about first and foremost. But then you also have to have the flexibility to know when another person needs help. And not just, I just do this. I'm just going to stand over here and stay in this lane. I think a good team player can, know when they're needed. They need to do their one job, but at certain times they're going to have to, help others to get to that common goal. But I also think that a team player needs to be a good listener, needs to be adaptive, needs to be open when somebody needs their help, needs to, keep their main job a priority, but also, like, again, the common good is just get to that end goal. So I think it's all of those things. And also, just have to be willing to listen, willing to help, willing to, you know what? I need to just put this task down for a second because I got to run over here and fill this chafing dish. Sorry.
And you see it on the cooking shows, on the competitions all the time. That's really where it's make or break, is when they do the team challenges and who can and cannot work together.
Well, I mean, it is all drama. There's no such thing as unscripted television. I have been on many of those shows to know that they will set you up for success or they'll set you up for failure. But the whole thing is a narrative that they are like controlling up here with puppet strings, right? So at the end of the day,
is that like a bad example then?
No, it's not. But I mean, I think that ultimately, though, the ones that are like, screw you, I'm not going to help you. They never prevail at the end. You think they might, they heighten this drama. Like, listen, maybe it seems like they're getting props or they have some kind of advantage because I'm just so laser focused on winning this competition. But at the end of the day, more often than not, the good guys win out.
So for you all, what is your ultimate win-win scenario in terms of teamwork?
I'm going to add a win and call it Winfinity, Deb.
Okay.
Ooh,
Isn't that cool? This is a word
I like
that I
it.
learned several years ago from a trio who wrote a play for middle school and high school um, schoolers to be able to put on about bullying. And it's a play called Letters to Daddy. They were out on the East Coast, way on the East Coast, like in New Jersey. And they shared with me this word, winfinity. What can I do to make sure I win? What can I make sure to do you win? What you get to win? And then what does the ripple effect mean on the outside so that there is good that continues to go out?
I love it. We should all be striving for winfinity all the time.
That's like a flywheel, right? You get
Yeah.
things moving,
Exactly.
and then all of a sudden it makes it easier for someone else to win, easier for someone else to win. The ultimate win-win for a team, until Jess just said that, my first thought was I do my best and the team does their best, right? That's the win-win. But if we're going winfinity, and I love where you went with that, Jess, the idea that each win makes it easier for the next person to win too.
Yes.
Not only makes it easier, but makes it more likely. And when you're always looking for, I don't know why my brain works in weird ways. And so sometimes stuff pops into my head, and I'm recalling a family vacation 2 summers ago. We went to Scotland, and the vibe that I get from the people in Scotland is that we have enough of what we need. Would you like some too? And so that's what pops into my head when I think about how do we make it easier for the next person to win and the next person to win. It's like, we won. Would you like to win too? And I think that continuous, it's giving, it's generosity is how that works.
Ooh, I love that. Well, but that's also in that same spirit of, okay, what do you need? How can I help? So,
Mr. Rogers, of all people, is one of my heroes in this world. And one of the things he says is his mom said to him, seek out the helpers. There will always be a helper. And I think that that's an important piece of teamwork that wins, because when we're all working together, it's great. Yet life happens to all of us. So when one of us is struggling, we all are going to have the impact of that. So just to check in, Katie, how's it going? Deb, I know you've had a lot going on. Jeff, did that weird casserole that your family was going to try out turn out to be good? Whatever it is, right? I'm like, can that one moment of connection beyond all of that, to just be human, to remember we have that connection, is where I think I also find a little bit of that. How do we all win together?
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Katie, do you have 2 or 3 cents?
Also, I just think that if there's somebody newer on the team, or somebody that's not as experienced, or somebody that's younger that might be intimidated to, really create a culture where they feel like they can suggest a new idea. How can they feel like a winner when they're feeling like I don't know anything? But creating a culture in which, okay, this team player has been on the team for years. They feel like they know everything. But again, incumbent on the leader, say, let's hear everybody's opinion here. Let's make everyone feel like they can make a suggestion. Let's make everyone feel like, well, I actually won today because they listened to me. And that maybe everyone takes on that new way of doing something for that particular project. So I think everyone can feel like winners individually, and that to encourage that kind of dialogue and that kind of brainstorming. But then if those ideas can be implemented as a whole for the group, that's only going to make people feel amazing. And we want people to feel like winners every day.
I just have like, I wouldn't call it a PTSD, but this memory of when I was a company I worked for many, many years ago, whenever we had team meetings, I would say something and then someone else would add on, and then the person would like, oh, I love that idea. So it was one of those, I was teeing up these great ideas, but the team leader was just going with the second person and just kind of And I think I said something incredibly passive aggressive, like, oh, wait, here's another one that so-and-so can riff off of that you will love better. It was a short-term gig. It was probably a good thing. But
I think we've all been there though, right? Where you feel like, wait a minute, I just said exactly what they said, which can boil down to favoritism, sexism, so many different reasons why that happens. But again, I think that we can't be afraid when we're in new situations to speak up and try to, make the team as a whole better.
Well, there's this whole, and obviously I didn't realize how much it scarred me because, like I said, this is like 10, 15 years ago that just popped in my head that I hadn't thought of in ages. But it's so important as leaders, I think, to make sure everybody feels seen, because when people are appreciated, they're going to work more for you. When you uplift your team, they'll do anything to make sure the company is a success. And that goes into a whole other the tangent on corporate culture, which we probably will not get into. But since you're all talking about it anyway, how does leadership factor into teamwork? What does that role look like?
I think there are two
Katie?
facets. Okay,
Jess?
I was going to say,
Jess?
did you have something, Katie? I didn't mean to accidentally talk over you.
No, Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say there's two ways to look at it. You've got your individual personal leadership, and you have your leadership of whether it's a sideways relationship or an up and down relationship on an organization chart, however that looks, it does start with us. So I'm going to say leadership leaves clues in the more we know about ourselves and we're willing to ask and look and maybe even courageously look at our weaknesses a little more, the better we are able to show up and give grace and guidance through that listening, through that working within the constraints to foster as much creativity as possible to move forward.
Awesome. Know thyself. Be self-aware. You're a better leader. For sure. I'm trying hard not to pick on Jeff first, but now it looks like Jeff wants to talk anyway, so go right ahead.
I'm ready to go, but I'm also very cognizant of the fact that I talk a lot. So I'm just, making sure that it's my turn before I do go. I don't think that as a leader, you can create an environment for teamwork unless you create the space where it is acceptable to fail. Mm-hmm. And there's a vulnerability that goes along with leadership that is very difficult to pull off. I've not done it successfully every time. There are times I know I've done it, and there are times when I know I haven't. And one of the lasting lessons that has stuck with me is that you need to create this space where it's acceptable, even encouraged, for people to try things that might not work. And I think that is, we're put into cultures at work where everything needs to happen yesterday. It needs to be perfect, and there's no room for humanity in it. And with all the talk of, just be a human being at work, be a human, show your personality, everybody's individual, all this stuff. Yeah, we can nod our heads and we can agree with that. And then we go into this place in the work world where, at least I don't know if you all feel it, but I feel it's like there's nothing less than perfect that is acceptable. Because
it's a permeating culture,
right?
Yeah.
And
yes,
and so it's counter to that culture, which is why it requires leadership to do. But if you're not put in a place where you can fail, how do you know what you can succeed at? Until you know where the line is, until you have crossed that line, how do you know what becomes possible? And there's so much of this that is fuzzy and hard to define. And leadership is providing that structure in that space when the constraints of the moment don't provide it for you. When it's not clear where the boundary is, do you have permission to try these things? Do you know that you have a safe space when you do fail? When you try and you think you might fail and you don't, now what becomes possible? And so much of leadership is showing people the best that they can be while helping them discover it for themselves. leadership is more than just making sure everybody does the right things at the right time. It's about helping them to see possibilities and create those very possibilities.
Well, life, business, everything is about trial and error. You need to let people know that there are cushions and they are not going to go splat, as it were.
Even when it feels like it.
Even when it feels like, well, no one wants to fail. We want all of our everythings to be successful. But the universe, a lot of the times, they've got a different idea of what they want to happen to you. We can only control doing our best and then see what lands and what, again, goes splat.
If you're not willing to, be vulnerable and take a risk and put yourself out there and, show your team that, you're not going to succeed at everything you do, then they're not going to be willing to take a risk. If no one on your team is willing to take a risk, then you're never going to go to the next level in your business. You're never going to, break out of the mold. You're never going to be, you're never going to make history that way. So I agree completely that you have to show your vulnerable side and allow people to challenge you also, because there's a lot of leaders coming from Hollywood. The emperor's new clothes phenomenon definitely exists. And so, you also have to be willing to take constructive criticism from your team, for sure, which is not always easy to do, and encourage that dialogue between your team members as well.
It makes me think of Aaron Brockovich. We actually just watched that movie with Julia Roberts in it as a family, and recently we rewatched it. And I will tell you what, she asked permission to do something. Her boss said yes. She went and did it, but everybody in the office thought she was playing hooky and just quit coming to work. And she didn't say anything when it came time to defend herself when she got fired, right? When she went out and found all of this research, and she went away and decided, okay, fine, they don't really want me here. But her boss, that lawyer, came back and said, you actually did all of this? Can you get more? Do you actually know about this? And he, I don't remember if he actually apologized, but he actually made it right. I assumed too soon. I didn't listen enough. I didn't ask you what was actually going on here. And they were able to make it right and make a big, big change in the world over time. But to the point of being vulnerable, to the point of recognizing we have our own assumptions. That was just popped into my head as I was listening to both of you, Katie and Jeff.
And as you all are entrepreneurs and or entrepreneurial, what do you do as being someone who's like, I'm trying to ask this as an actual question rather than as a ramble, but because a delegation is a huge part of any sort of company, whether it's an assistant or you've got cogs, people helping you create a finished product, or if you work with other people, like I do, like Jeff does as a coach, that is a team, even though you're working together as a team. So how does coming at teamwork from an entrepreneurial standpoint, how is that different, or what are things that you do to make sure that you're uplifting everybody in the boat? I made it a question. Oh, I'm so proud of me.
I think you get there by showing people that you trust them with the things that you ask them to do. I'm not good at that. I've learned that I'm not good at that. And that's actually one of my, something that I'm working on. And I recognize the value of it. I can't do this by myself. So where do I need the help? Asking for help is not a vulnerability. I mean, I guess it is in the good sense of the word, but not in the bad sense of the word, right? So it's one of those things where you realize, that's what is the proverb? If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so how do you build teamwork where you recognize that there are other people who are better suited to do some things than you are, and trusting them with that delegation, I think is how you you show someone that they belong, and you show someone that they're valued, and you encourage them to make the best contributions they can.
That's great. And the answer actually told me what the right question was, which is that how do you build teamwork in an entrepreneurial setting? Because that was the question that you answered. So thank you. Jess, Katie, do you have anything to add to that?
I have 2 quotes that I could add to this to maybe help further this discussion. The first is actually from Martin Luther King Jr. I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. That's one quote. Another one is actually Nelson Mandela, Ubuntu or Ubuntu. I'm unsure of that particular pronunciation, but the gist is I need you to be me and you need me to be you. We need all, and so then here's the Jessica version. We need all of the spectrum, and we need to be willing to see all of the spectrum to recognize what we have, what we don't have, where we are, where somebody else is, so that we can all make the difference with who we are and what we have today.
And thank you for especially for the MLK quote. We are doing the live on MLK Day. This will show up on the GoalChat podcast a couple of days later. So we'll call it In the Spirit of MLK Day and MLK Week. Look, we just promoted him from a day to a week of a holiday. So
that just happened to be, I'm like, well, hey, I have a quote to answer your question, and it's a guy I like. Well, who knew we were also celebrating all of his work today?
I love that. I love that. I'm just going to add, just going from being a leader in a corporate setting at film studios where it's very structured. People are in the same roles for a long time. They're pretty clear on this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is what's expected of you. Film releases may change, strategies may change. For me to go from that to I have multiple teams that I'm juggling constantly. I have a catering team. I have 3 different teams helping me to adapt my one-woman show into different formats, television, film, publishing, live theater. So I've just learned to be completely nimble and flexible because it's constantly shape shifting. But I think it has to be, for me, just trusting my intuition, trying to be authentic as I can be, and trying to be as respectful as I can be, because each person brings something different to each scenario that I'm in. But sometimes it's not necessarily the best person for this team, but recognizing that quickly. And you know what? Sometimes you just have to part ways in it being an entrepreneur, because you don't have time. It's not like you have these people that are under contract working for you in a corporate setting. It's this is not working out, but that's okay. And then moving on and finding another team member that will probably be more harmonious in your orchestra.
there we go. Back to that.
I appreciate that truth. I actually really appreciate that truth. That's that's a big thing that we forget about, is that we have the ability to choose who we work with, even if that happens to also be one of our constraints, that everybody's just there.
Right. Mm-hmm. Exactly. As an entrepreneur, it's true.
It's like, and I love that too. It's like people say, when you're an entrepreneur, you don't have a boss, but in actuality, when you're an entrepreneur, everybody is your boss. So you've got the flexibility to bring on who you want, but you also need to have that reality to know if things aren't working for you, that you are empowered to change things so they are.
I like that.
Excellent. Everybody's nodding for those of you who are listening to the audio.
That's right. So this is I forgot this was an audio presentation too. So that wasn't dead air. No, we were all agreeing vociferously. Yes.
And when I do this show, unless it's on purpose, the people do not know each other. So, and I love constructing these panels with because Jeff, when you did the intro, you're like, do you people know? No, we just started chatting in the backstage because that's what FODs, Friends of Deb, do, right? Well, at this point, I would love to ask you all to gift a goal to the audience. So what can they do today, tomorrow, immediately to, I feel like hone the leadership skills is like way too big of a question. So so you could gift any goal that you want, something that's going to help whoever's tuning in just do better in reaching towards their goals.
Be
Jess,
kinder.
Jess. See, you got mad because I picked on you first, and now I'm trying not to, and you're jumping in. So, Jeff, what goal would you like to gift?
The podcaster in me was afraid of silence again. So,
it's very, very funny you say that because whenever I go to these meetups, they're always like, who wants to go first? And I always want to go first. And because I always want to go first, I try really hard not to go first. And then I end up going first anyway. So I see you.
All right. I feel seen. Thank you. I'm going to say that my gift of a goal is be kinder to yourself. I think that there are people who, and this is one of my goals for 2025, and the entrepreneurial people are driven and they see possibility and potential in themselves, sometimes that other people don't see. And the next step is to then hold yourself accountable and expect that level. And what I found, and it's not just myself, but other people who are driven, like I am, even more than I am, is that you never quite get there. And getting there isn't the point. Being where you are and recognizing that you're further along than you were yesterday is the point. And if you do not take the time to pat yourself on the back every once in a while, you never get the recognition that you deserve for what you've already done. And it feels like a dangerous thing. And there's people listening right now or watching right now that are rolling their eyes. I get it. But unless you appreciate what you've already done, it will restrict what you are able to do.
I am so beyond with you. And so if you're on Facebook and you want a community for goal setting, productivity, and community, where every Thursday I do Toot Your Horn Thursday, what's your biggest win? So we could be celebrating. It's important. We need to acknowledge that. But we also need to know on a day when it feels like we're banging our head against the wall, stop banging your head against the wall and start again tomorrow. And we forget that it's okay to do that. So thank you for that. Katie, you ready for your goal to gift?
I think just coming off of what's happened in Los Angeles, that, it's just a reminder of how fragile life is and anything could happen at any time. So take the time for self-care, commit to self-care. I know that people talk about it all the time, but are we really doing it and not feeling guilty? Especially I'm talking to you women out there. We feel guilt for whatever reason, that we take that time to get a massage. We take that time to have a girls' night or whatever. It's so important and it's so critical for our mental health. But in the end, it makes us better leaders.
Ooh, you tied that in beautifully. Thank you, Katie.
You're welcome.
And we can even, commit to self-care. What does that mean? Daily, weekly? What do you think? What is a good example of self-care commitment?
I think it's different for everybody. For some people, it might be that 10 minutes of meditation that they do, or to go outside, or I'm just going to walk my dog around the block. I commit to that once a day, every day. For me personally, everybody's different, but you know what, like, will charge your engine. For me, it's like karaoke at least once a week.
And this is why you and I are each other's people.
Yeah.
Even though no one wants to hear me sing, but I am a heck of a backup dancer. I promise.
I believe it.
Jess, what goal are you gifting?
Well, I'm glad that I went last because I have a love note file that speaks to what Jeff was talking about. anytime somebody says something nice to me, I write it out or I print it off and I stick it in something because I'm tactile. And on those days I'm banging my head against the wall, I pull out my love note file and I'm reminded about all the awesome stuff. So a little bit of action to Jeff's advice, which I love. And then, for you too, Katie, mine was going to be similar to that, which is in that self-care, can you do something that actually helps you know yourself a little bit more? Maybe it's sit in silence because you don't like it. Maybe it's because you're frustrated about some dynamic you see, and that's actually a part of you. The frustration means it's in you and you don't like it, but you're seeing it outside of you. And can you spend time to see where that juicy part is so that you can see the good in the frustration as much as use that frustration for fuel to get you to what's next?
Okay, that's pretty cool. I love that you yes and both of them, but the goal for the record, which you can get at thedebmethod.com/blog, is to keep a love note file of nice things people have said to you and about you.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Perfect.
This has been, not your typical conversation on teamwork. I planned it that way. Where can people learn more about each of you? Jeff?
You can go to jeffbajorek.com. You can learn a little bit about me there. And my primary social media profile is at LinkedIn. So linkedin.com/in/Jeff Bajorek.
And in the recap, which you can get at thedebmethod.com/blog, I will have your websites as well as your LinkedIn. So if you're tuning in, please connect with any or all of us. Haiti, where can people learn more about you?
At chefkatiechin.com, Instagram, Facebook at chefkatiechin, and LinkedIn at Katie Chin.
Excellent. And Jess?
Well, let's see. I'm not going to be as succinct as everybody else, and that's okay. I'll just say LinkedIn is great. Check out the Bold Business Podcast because that's what we talk about over there. All courageous, bold business actions for us to succeed and win today while taking care of ourselves, while going a little bit deeper and doing our fantastic goal setting, regardless of the lens, like today's teamwork and leadership.
Excellent. And you can, if you need a little bit more of goal help, you can grab a copy of Original Recipe, Your Goal Guide, a roadmap for setting, planning, and achieving your goals, or grab a copy of 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting, how to stay focused, grow your network, and get more done in less time. I am live. I'm live every Monday at 4 p.m. Pacific on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and at the Deb Method everywhere to follow and or subscribe. And you can also subscribe to the GoalChat podcast and also to Hey Spuds with Deb on your favorite podcast platform. Friends, what final thought would you like to leave everybody with? Jess, final thought?
We talked around decision fatigue. We also talked a lot about compassion, and there's also fatigue around compassion. So just recognize the signs of fatigue and just pause and proceed with intentional action.
Okay. Love that. Recognize fatigue and deal with it. It goes back into the self-care because you want to be operating at your best self whenever humanly possible. Katie, final thought?
Again, I'm just coming off this major catastrophe that's happening in Los Angeles and really taking stock of what's important in your life, what is truly important, but also that life is short. So I just want to say, if not now, then when? If there's something that you've been dreaming of doing, wanting to do, just do it, man.
I am with you for sure on that one. And Jeff, final thought?
So many. Be grateful. Go hug somebody. Hug somebody and receive the hug back, and just be grateful for the moment that you share with that person or those people. To plus one, and yes, and to my two co-panelists here. It's been lovely to be here. Thank you for allowing me to share this space with you all. And it's given me, it's been a great time to think. Well, I've learned some things. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, I love that, because that's the purpose. We're all in this boat, butterfly net together. So why not meet more of our people so we can continue to uplift and catapult into creating that life you desire and achieving those goals. So thank you again, Jeff Bajorek, Katie Chen, and Jess Dewell for joining me. Thank you for tuning into GoalChat, whether you're watching us live, the replay, or listening to us as GoalChat on the Marketing Podcast Network. And again, thank you. Thank you all, Jeff, Katie, and Jess, for being part of 52 Secrets for Goal Setting and Goal Getting. And you can learn more about my book at thedebmethod.com, but also at 52secretsbook.com. We all have this, when we close our eyes and think of the life we want, we do have a picture. So kind of lean into it and go towards that life that you want, because we all know you can do it.